Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Visit our website, holybatcast.com. It is your one-stop shop for all things Holy BatCast, but you can also find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support the show, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, a big ol' thank you and a big ol' bat hug to all of our patrons who do keep this show running. You guys are awesome. We couldn't do it without you. We're part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for other shows to enjoy in your spare time, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. And as always, I am your Bat host, Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this is a somewhat emergency last-minute episode because we got some big news over the past 24 hours. Happened while I was asleep, which is usually the way it goes these days. So we're going to be talking about some official artwork and the official title treatment for The Batman. But we're also going to talk about the return of another Batman. And joining me for all of that, he is my partner in crime, usually, especially for this last minute stuff when we can't plan accordingly. It is Brendan Lowe. Hey, Brendan.
How are ya?
I'm swell. I woke up to a crazy storm of excitement, and I had to scramble to catch up.
Well, my bat senses were tingling again, as seems to always happen with this sort of stuff, breaks, because it is early hours of the morning usually, on this side of the world. And I woke up probably around 3 o'clock, just starting to get on a bit in age, so woke up needing to pee, checked my phone. Because I take my phone with me, to use it as a torch, and I checked my phone and saw the Matt Reeves stuff. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't expect we'd get this sort of thing until, Sunday morning our time. Shit, okay, cool. Shared it, on all my socials and everything, and on the nightlight and stuff, and then took a little while to go back to sleep, but I got there. And then I woke up. I probably was awake till around 5:30, I think. And then I went back to sleep and woke up at 6:45. And in the hour or so that I'd been asleep, the other news dropped. So, yeah, I just missed out on probably the bigger news, you would say. I missed out on actually being awake for that because I just dozed back off again, which is kind of cool because I still had to work all day today. But yeah, it was another weird one. I was awake at all hours when all this stuff was happening. I
mean, I respect your bat sense, I guess. Not your spidey sense, but your bat sense. It's impressive because I slept soundly through it all.
Something was tingling and it wasn't just my bladder.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, well, so we're gearing up, of course, for DC Fandom. It's going to happen now in what is today? And not quite 24 hours. Little over that.
Little over
24 hours before DC Fandom starts. So we're, of course, gearing up for that. We're excited for that. Ready to lose sleep and all of that good stuff. And so you would think that it would be a little quiet on the news front because they would be waiting for DC Fandom. But no, that's not the way it worked. Speaking of DC Fandom, though, before we jump into these little pieces of news, is they did make a decision, which I thought was very smart, is, I went on after the last episode, I looked at the schedule, and I kind of, I favorited the ones I was planning on watching and everything, but there were essentially two parallel schedules, and one was the Hall of Heroes, which seemed to be all the big movie stuff, and then the second one was the Watchverse?
Yes.
I think? And it was a lot of
all the other fun stuff as well.
Yeah, and it was a lot of TV and animation and stuff, but it was all happening simultaneously. And so, yeah, of course, 80% or 90% of my schedule was all the Hall of Heroes stuff because it's all the movie stuff. I think I did, I did click a couple of the things on the watch first, but for the most part, it was very heavy on Hall of Heroes. And I even thought to myself, I was like, honestly, I feel like the easiest thing to do is to just turn on Hall of Heroes and just watch that straight through, whatever my interest might be, but that's like the easiest thing to do, so that way I don't miss anything.
Well, that was my plan as well, to sort of watch all that live as it happened the first time around. And then the other stuff, I was just going to cherry pick and watch it all on the second and third rotations.
Mm-hmm.
So it was doable, but it was just going to take up a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that, people were in there and they were creating their schedules, and I guess the organizers of the event were seeing this and they're like, oh man, everybody's choosing the Hall of Heroes stuff and not the Watchverse stuff because it's all happening at the same time. And I think that when they scheduled it like a real convention, because each room in a real convention has a capacity. And so people go, oh, I know that panel is going to be full, so I'm going to go to this other one, this TV one, that's going to be not as popular, but I know I'll get into it. And so they scheduled you and gave you options the way you would a real in-person convention, except it's not that. It's an electronic convention, which means there is no capacity. Everybody can watch whatever they want. And I think they realized that once they saw it, and so they made a very smart call as they're like, okay, we're doing all the Hall of Heroes stuff as planned August 22nd. But all of the secondary stuff, the Watchverse stuff, we're going to push that forward to the first week of September. And, oh my God, I don't have the date in front of me. Do you know by any chance?
It's the 13th, I think. It's like mid-September. It's the best part of a month.
Oh, okay, great. So there you go, September 13th. And we're going to do that all then. So now it's a 2-day event, but there's a few weeks in between the 2 days. So that way, the most eyeballs get to see whatever they want to see. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, you should have done this from the start, but hey, you know what? Glad you did it. Glad you saw it because, yeah, I was a little bummed because I'm like, well, I'm pretty much going to watch the Hall of Heroes stuff, which means I am going to miss some stuff that's happening at the same time. And now you don't have to. You don't have to choose. So I think they made a very smart call. Extend the magic. Let us absorb all the stuff on the 22nd, take a couple weeks break, and then, we sort of have a nice little dessert afterwards of all the other stuff. So it was really smart. They should have planned it like that from the start, but hey, glad they figured it out because I think that is better for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah, I can't really add to it. I totally agree.
All right, so cool. So good news. DC Fandom is extended, so we get to do 2. And we don't have to choose, which is nice.
Yeah. No, what is it? Not Rosemary's Baby.
Sophie's Choice?
Oh, Christ. Sophie's Choice. That's what I'm thinking of. That's a completely different movie.
Yeah. No Rosemary's Choice. Or Sophie's Baby.
Correct, I think.
So anyway, so that's great news. I'm excited about that. We're leading up to the big event. I don't know if you saw, Zack Snyder dropped a really cool little teaser for his version of Justice League. Just a little new footage in there. Very exciting. It's in 2 days and just enough to whet the appetite, get you excited. And again, I'm when he drops stuff like that, I'm getting excited as if it were 3 years ago and I was, and it's as if we hadn't seen the movie.
Okay.
What?
It's a really weird feeling.
It is. It's so weird. The whole thing is so bizarre. I mean, but I'm psyched for it, and everything I see about it, I get really excited. But, yeah, it's crazy that, it's a 3-year-old movie, but we're getting excited for new trailers for it because we didn't really see the movie. No. So weird. But, no, that was super cool. That's very exciting. I can't wait to see what he brings because, obviously, he's got something big planned. He's so good at, building the hype, and he's obviously so excited, and I'm so happy for him. I think that's great. So that's really cool. But anyway, leading up, Matt Reeves shared some things. So yesterday, at least it was yesterday in China time, wherever you are, it was different. But yesterday, we got word that WB trademarked a new bat symbol, and so people were talking about the new bat symbol, and it's pretty much what we have seen on the footage of Robert Pattinson's Batsuit, except now it has ears, because the one on the suit doesn't look like it does, but it's essentially that same wing pattern, but now with a little head and ears. So that got trademarked, and people were like, oh, all right, I guess that's the official logo for the Batman. And so
it's funny because I didn't see that around anywhere. It was only like you sent me a photo and Philip sent me a photo, but I didn't see that. Like I didn't see it on Twitter. I didn't see it on Facebook. I didn't see it at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Honestly, it just, I don't know, with algorithms and stuff, which is weird because I look at a lot of Batman shit. I didn't see it.
Okay, yeah, I saw it all over Twitter.
Right.
So. Yeah, and I do wonder if that sort of forced Matt Reeves' hand, because that got out first.
Potentially, yeah, I guess.
Because I don't even think it was 24 hours later that he dropped what he dropped. And so, yeah, everybody saw the symbol. They went, oh, okay, it got trademarked. Obviously, that means it's going to be on merchandise and stuff. So this is the official symbol for Matt Reeves' The Batman. And so then, less than a day later, Matt Reeves drops two things. He drops the official title treatment for the Batman, and it is that symbol on a red background with big block letters of the Batman, and then a piece of artwork of Robert Pattinson's Batman done by the legendary Jim Lee, who, of course, amazing artist, but also the chief creative officer at DC Entertainment. So he drops that piece of art, and the art says DC Fandom, and then the Batman title treatment. So, Brendan, I mean, you saw it while you peed, and then you shared it in the middle of the night. What do you think?
In terms of the official logo that was released today, I really like it. I genuinely think it's cool. The one that was floating around yesterday that you sent me, I really wish I hadn't seen it, because I like everything we've seen with this movie so far. I didn't like it. Like I know that sounds terrible. I know you know what I mean, but for people who may not have heard previous shows, like I'm looking forward to this movie and everything, but and the story that it appears we're going to get and the characters that are in it, I'm super psyched. And the cast, it looks amazing. Aesthetically, though, nothing has really done it for me so far. Mm-hmm. And this logo that was floating around yesterday was exactly the same. Like, it looked, for people who didn't see it, it was the bat symbol, but it was just sort of like plain black on a white background. It looked like something that had been printed, but it looked like the printer ran out of ink towards the end of it. Like, it just looked unfinished. But then seeing it today on the red background and with a lot more detail and everything in it, I reckon it looks awesome. I still think it should have like a point on the bottom. It's a little nitpick, but look, as you said on Twitter yesterday, every incarnation of Batman and every new take on any reboot of the movie, they all put their own spin on the logo, and Matt Reeves has just as much right to do that as anybody else. It's just, I don't know, it just needs that little point on the bottom. But no, I think the logo is really cool. Like, I love the red, which is something we've sort of, it's not really a color I would associate with live action Batman. It's definitely a Batman Beyond thing, but I mean, Batman the Animated Series had a lot of red in it as well. The Jim Lee art that came out at the same time is awesome. His rendering and like his illustration of the costume looks wicked. And again, it's they're going with that red theme, which I think is really cool. So I was very, very happy with those two little reveals we got this morning. I do love with the logo too, how it's got the little DC down in the corner. I reckon that's pretty cool. So no, man, I like it. I reckon it's cool.
Yeah. I love me some DC branding. I'm a big fan of that. So I do love that they stamp that DC on everything these days, because they should. Like you want DC to be instantly recognizable, and the way to do that is you commit to it, and that's what they've been doing for the past couple years. So you'll see this DC logo on everything. They've even added it to like the artwork for older DC movies as well. And I think that's awesome.
It's the right move.
Yeah. Like, You want to see that DC and know what it is. For the most part, we see eye to eye on this. I mean, you already said what I think, so thanks for that. Just reading my tweet to everyone, so I don't even have to say it again. But no, I mean, you're right. The initial logo that came out, it was just the black silhouette on a white background. It was sort of just the source artwork, the silhouette.
It's very rough.
Yeah. Not even rough. It was just very minimal. Like there was no texture, there was no shading. It was literally just the hard line artwork. And I saw it and I was like, okay, sure, fine. And that was the one I commented on. That's when I said, hey, listen, everybody's taken their own stab at the Bat logo. This is Matt Reeves' version. Cool, great, more power to him. That's fine. It's not the one I would make, but hey, this is his version. Go for it. It's unique. It's different. It has its own personality. That's fine. Great. But yes, I agree with you that it's even better once it was incorporated into the logo for the Batman. So, because not only is it now colored and with the Batman text, but there's some texture there. There's some shading there. There's just a little more to it instead of just a big black bat. So I dig it. I think it looks cool. A lot of folks have commented that it almost looks like a bat flying towards you, which is kind of neat. Whether that's intentional or not, I'm not sure, but I think it's a cool interpretation for those who've said it. And I've seen someone put it even next to a comic panel of the bat flying through the window towards the reader, because it's a comic panel. And it's very similar to this. And yeah, that's really cool. That's a neat way of looking at it. But yeah, I just like that it has personality. It's something a little different, a little unique, but you still go, yeah, that's Batman. So it's just another bat symbol to add to the pile that, people can choose as their favorites. I have also noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, but this week, for whatever reason, a lot of people out there have been like, what's your favorite bat symbol? Because they know that everyone will answer. So like, I've seen like 10 different random people put it out there as a question just because they know that everyone will retweet it and comment on it. And then I agree with you about the artwork. I mean, the artwork is amazing. Jim Lee is amazing. And it kind of goes to what I said recently on a recent episode. I can't remember when, but saying that I really like the Battinson suit in artwork. It looks better in artwork right now than it does in footage. I hope that all changes in 24 hours time. But for now, like when I see artwork of it, I go, oh, that's actually really cool. It was the actual photos and footage that aren't quite doing it for me. But this is a great piece of art from Jim Lee. It is really cool to see him interpret this new version of Batman that we're getting in film. Yeah, it's great. It looks awesome. And what a cool little treat to get us psyched up for whatever they're going to share at Fandom. And I think Matt Reeves did say he's going to bring some footage or something. So
yeah, they had like that little trailer for the event, 2 or 3 days ago now, and yeah, the little snippet was essentially him saying I couldn't come here and not have footage or show scenes from the movie or something to that effect.
Yeah, and we also got clarification that it has not started reshooting, or not reshooting, but it hasn't restarted shooting. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Resumed filming.
There you go. Thank you. Resumed filming. Because I wasn't sure. I know that they were saying it was going to, but I guess they've been in kind of pre-production, building sets and everything. And so now the report is that they're supposed to resume filming, as you so eloquently put it, in September. So they're very close to starting production up again, which is really exciting too.
Yeah.
So that's great to hear. Excited to see more. Excited to see what Matt Reeves is going to share with us in a very short time. But for now, what a cool little appetizer of getting the official logo and getting this piece of art. Very cool. I'm into it.
Yeah, honestly, it's really weird. Like, I said it, and I know a few of our friends said it when this was all happening. Like, if this sort of stuff's happening now, and particularly the next piece of news we're going to get to, like, what are they actually, like, what the hell are they holding back for the weekend? And I was thinking about it today, and it is kind of, I don't know, I feel right now the way I do right before a San Diego Comic-Con weekend. I mean, I know it's different for you because you're normally in San Diego, but in terms of me being on the other side of the world, this is how I feel. And there's always, on the Friday, is when you start getting little nuggets little bits and pieces will start filtering through. Like one of the ones I remember is back in 2015. Yeah, 2015 was when the Friday was when we got I think it was the shot of the first look at Affleck. It was sort of that close-up shot of him with the goggles from the nightmare scene. That beautiful photo they released, and that was on a Friday. And there was a few other things over the years where you'll just start getting little things in the lead up to, well, again, the Sunday morning my time, when the Hall H panel is, which is when all the big stuff hits. So it kind of feels very in line with that, where it's Friday my time. You're starting to get little bits and pieces of news and waiting for the big event in just over 24 hours time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is Comic-Con. It just happened later, and it's very DC focused.
Yeah,
it's awesome. So anyway, moving on, the Batman news doesn't stop, and I should pause and just say, how nice is it that we can have an episode that's really just so Batman-centric? Because we cover all of DC, and, we've talked about a lot of other things recently, and it's just nice to really just focus on Batman, our first and true love.
And, it's always like, if there's ever an emergency podcast, it's always very Batman-focused.
Right. So anyway, a few hours later, as you said, a Vanity Fair, of all places, dropped a huge bombshell. And it is Anthony Breznican, and he came from another, I want to say he was the Hollywood Reporter.
Okay.
So he came from another big trade. I didn't realize he's at Vanity Fair now. But anyway, so he's the one who dropped this news. So good on him. Is that Ben Affleck indeed will return. And so, but not in the way a lot of fans have hoped or expected. He is returning as Batman in the Flash movie.
I'll take it.
Again, you can find this at Vanity Fair. That's where it originated, but of course now everybody has run with it. But here are some tidbits and info that we got, because I guess Anthony Breznican, he interviewed Andy Muschietti, the director of The Flash, and that is how this came out. And so Andy Muschietti actually had a lot to say about this. So let's see here. It does say that Ben Affleck's Batman is coming back for one more movie. Again, it's unclear if that's just the writer assuming that, or if that was actually said, but it does say here, one more movie. Affleck agreeing to return as Bruce Wayne in The Flash. And so they do talk about that the Flash movie will be a adaptation of Flashpoint, where Ezra Miller's Flash will run into different versions of DC's classic heroes. And Andy Muschietti says this. He says about Ben Affleck's Batman, he says he has a dichotomy that's very strong, which is his masculinity because of the way he looks and the imposing figure that he has and his jawline, but he's also very vulnerable. He knows how to deliver from the inside out that vulnerability. He just needs a story that allows him to bring that contrast, that balance. Says that Affleck got the script last week and agreed to do it this week. And so Muschietti says it's a very substantial part of the emotional impact of the movie. The interaction and relationship between Barry and Affleck's Bruce Wayne will bring an emotional level that we haven't seen before. It's Barry's movie, it's Barry's story, but their characters are more related than we think. They both lost their mothers to murder, and that's one of the emotional vessels of the movie. That's where the Affleck Batman kicks in. I'm also glad to be collaborating with someone who's been on both sides of the camera because he understands. He also confirmed that indeed Michael Keaton's Batman will be in the film as well, and he says it is a substantial part. So not just a cameo.
And that's Keaton he was referring to, wasn't it?
Correct. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so he says Keaton will be in a substantial part.
Yep.
He also said it was important for Ben Affleck's Batman to be in this movie because Ezra Miller's Flash would consider him the original Batman. He said it wouldn't work well for him to venture into the company of other Batmen without having Affleck as the starting point. Says he's the baseline. He's part of that unaltered state before we jump into Barry's adventure. There's familiarity there. What else? Speaking about the multiverse, Muschietti says this movie is a bit of a hinge in the sense that it presents a story that implies a unified universe where all the cinematic iterations that we've seen before are valid. It's inclusive in the sense that it's saying all that you've seen exists and everything that you will see exists in the same unified multiverse.
That's going to set yourself apart from Marvel, isn't it?
Yeah. And then Barbara Muschietti, who is a producer on the film, and okay, so we've heard as they've developed this film, Andy and Barbara Muschietti. I assumed they were like Zack and Deborah Snyder, that they were husband and wife, but that's not the case. Barbara Muschietti is Andy Muschietti's sister.
Oh, there you go.
Fun fact, I had no idea. I just assumed it was his wife. So sorry, Andy and Barbara. Anyway, she also talked about it because she is the producer of The Flash. She was concerned that Affleck was going to be reluctant to come back. And she said there have been all sorts of stories and things he has said about having a very hard time playing Batman. It's been difficult for him. I think it was more about a difficult time in his life. When we approached him, he's in a very different time in his life. He was very open to it, which was a bit of a surprise. It was a question mark. We're all human and go through great times in our lives and terrible times in our lives. Right now, he's in a place where he can actually enjoy being Batman. Plus, he doesn't have to carry the entire movie. It's a pivotal role, but at the same time, it's a fun part.
I'm going to ask the question that we did, a couple of months ago now when the Michael Keaton news came out, and very careful in their wording to say that he's playing Bruce Wayne. Do you think we'll see him in the cowl again?
I would think, but yeah, I mean, you can't be sure.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he's in terrific shape anyway, but, he wouldn't have to potentially do any body work to fit into the suit again, but I saw someone post on Twitter today after the news broke. It was a photo of Anna, his partner. I was just like, what has this woman done to him? Because he's a new man. He really is, and we're going to reap the benefits, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I mean, it's very obvious. He's in a much better place personally. He's happier. He looks great. He's in good shape. He's gotten his health back. So, like, as she said, he's in a place where he's willing to revisit this. So anyway, that's pretty much all the pertinent info in the article. First thing I will say is me saying, he's done. I was wrong. I will take the L. I'm happy to take the L because even though I was sure he was done, I always said, but I would certainly applaud if he ever wanted to come back. And so I never thought this would happen, but I do applaud. I love that we're going to get to see him at least one more time in something new as opposed to like Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is a couple years old. I love that he's willing to do it one more time. I think that's amazing. And so happy to be wrong. I really didn't think. I thought he had moved on. And he made a big to-do about moving on, and I'm glad that he was willing to come back for at least one more go at it. So I'll start there. Brendan, what thoughts, feelings, reactions?
Well, I second everything you said. I was the same as you as well. I thought the ship had sailed. There was no way he'd be coming back. But hey, a couple of months ago, we got the news that Michael Keaton's coming back to play the role. So I think that's blown the doors wide open for possibilities of what can actually happen in these movies moving forward. They're obviously going to start really embracing the multiverse side of things, which I said just a couple of minutes ago. That'll set you aside from Marvel. It enables you to incorporate everything, like everything. TV, previous movie, 60s Batman, like the whole shebang is canon essentially, which is crazy, but also friggin' amazing. I'm I'm really happy to see him come back. Obviously, for all the reasons that you stated, and all the obvious ones that everyone knows. But the big one for me, and the part that never sat right with me, even though I was more than happy with his, well, not more than happy, but like I'd accepted his decision to hang up the cape and cowl. But the thing that bugged me was just the story side of it. You know, like how do you write that version of the character out and give him the send off that he deserves, not just for him as the actor in the role and everything, but you know how it makes sense story wise. And it looks like that's probably what we're going to get, which you know, as the fan that I am and the stickler for those kind of things, even if the Flash movie had just had Michael Keaton in it and they came up with some amazing off-screen reason as to why Ben Affleck's Batman was never seen again, okay, cool. But it always kind of bugged me. It'd always just be one of those little nitpicks that I'd always just kind of be like, oh yeah, but
yeah, where it kind of happens off screen, yeah, and like we don't get the closure that we'd want. You know, it's a Crispin Glover in Back to the Future Part 2, where like, oh yeah, don't look over there, don't look, it doesn't matter, we're moving on.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that it looks like I'm not going to have to worry about that, because if he is coming back like it's quoted for one more movie, notice I didn't say anything about a TV series there. But yeah, like, you know, the one more movie thing. Well, what else is he going to come back for other than to essentially, you know, hand the reins back to Michael Keaton? So I'm really happy with this news. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And so, yeah, I mean, I will say I'm so glad that he's willing to come back. I'm so excited to see what this looks like. I think it's great. I'm all for it. Again, so happy to be wrong. But I do agree with you. I think that this gives him a chance to exit the role in a much more graceful and satisfying way for everybody, including him. You know, we know that he was psyched to play Batman. When it all started, he was so excited about it. He was so into it. You know, he was willing to do that cameo in Suicide Squad. Like, he was the guy. And then everything fell apart after the release of Batman vs. Superman, and then eventually led to what happened with Justice League. And like, that was depressing from almost every angle. It was depressing as far as his professional life, his personal life, us as fans of, you know, especially those of us who loved him in the role. Like, it sucked to see it all kind of crumble. And
it seemed to coincide with his personal stuff too. Like, it was just not a good time to be Ben Affleck, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. When it rains, it pours. So, to think that, like, you know, the Frankenstein version of Justice League that we got, you know, before they announced the release of the Snyder Cut, to think that was going to be his swan song it was so depressing. Where, like, and again, I like that movie more than most, and I have less issues with the way he was portrayed in that movie than most, but still, was it a triumphant closure for his version of Batman? No. There absolutely could have and should have been a better way to close that up. And so I love that he is getting the chance to do that. I love that he's willing to do that. I do think that's what this is about, though. I think this is about him finding a way to segue out in a better way. He had a great quote about it a couple of years ago where he essentially said that, which is like, oh, you can't do it forever, so you've got to find a nice way to step away and let the character continue. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something very close to that. And so I think that's what this is about. I'm not putting that in stone, because overall, everything that's happened over the past couple months, we've learned never say never, and anything is possible. So I'm leaving that out there forever. Like, anything is possible. I can certainly give you my opinions of what I think, but Lord knows anything can happen. And I'm glad. It's always fun to be surprised, especially when it's good news. But I do think
Pretty
that's
soon,
what it
like,
is.
we're getting news like the ghost of Madge Blake's coming back to play Aunt Harriet or something, like the way
I
things
mean,
are going.
which is good because we've been very short on Aunt Harriet content for far too long. But when the news of Michael Keaton broke, there was speculation, and then I had also heard, kind of from other little voices out there that he was being brought in because the Flashpoint events were going to essentially fold him in, and he would then become the in-continuity Batman because Pattinson's Batman would be off on his own. And that's what I had heard, and I guess it makes sense, especially if Affleck didn't want to keep doing it. And Keaton was willing to sign a multi-picture deal, which again is also the rumors that that's what he did. But it's really hard to do that with only one of the actors. And you're right, there's ways to do it. Like there was, you never had to see Ben Affleck in the Flash movie, and when Barry meets Keaton's Batman, he can go, "You're Batman, but you're not the Batman I know," and then there's ways to do it. But it's a much better way to do it if you've got both actors to hand the torch. It's weird that you've got Ben Affleck handing the torch off to Michael Keaton. that's weird.
This is crazy.
I'm not mad about it, but what world are we living in? It's so insane. But I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think that's probably what it's about. Is about, him having one last hurrah, being able to get closure on a role in a way that he feels good about, and then if Michael Keaton is going to become like the in-continuity mentor figure for the current, essentially the Justice League cast, because everyone else is sticking around, it seems. This is the best way to do it. So I imagine, we'll get some variation on the Flash bringing the letter to Bruce Wayne, something like that. Of course, it'll be interesting to see how much of Ben's Batman or Bruce we get in the film. It'll all be very interesting to see how it plays out, but it's still really exciting and it's really awesome. Again, I think Ben agreed to do it as a way to say goodbye. I'm of course already seeing fans go, great, now we get that HBO Max series or that HBO Max movie with Deathstroke. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but hey, that has proven to mean nothing, so it doesn't matter. So I can think it by saying it's not going to happen. That means that next week they will announce the Ben Affleck Batman and Deathstroke movie. So you're welcome.
You mean next week, dude? It's like just over 24 hours.
So anyway,
there's two things that have popped into my head while you were talking and everything. One is I have to forgive me. I do struggle pronouncing the surname. Is it Muschietti?
That's what I say. Andy Muschietti.
So I tell you what, like if Affleck only saw the script last week and has agreed to do it this week, I know it's a script, and I'm sure that they'd have other contingencies if he said no, but that's a swing for the fences, even writing that character in. Having no idea if he'd agree to do it or not. And the thought of bringing Keaton back, man, they're going for it, which is hats off to him. I mean, particularly, and I am literally touching wood as I say this. I'm touching my bedside table, but we've gone through a lot of shit with this Flash movie.
Yeah.
In the last, 4 or 5 years, and it's ridiculous. And the previous incarnations, what we thought we knew about it, were all sounded really cool, but man, nothing like this. In some ways, I'm kind of glad all those other movies fell over and didn't get made, because it's allowed for this, which again, I'm touching that wood, I hope goes ahead and becomes a huge success. And the other thing is, talking about Affleck's motivations, another tweet I saw this morning, I apologize, I don't know who said it, I can't remember, but essentially the point they were making is Affleck is a huge Batman fan before he ever played the role, and what Batman movies did he grow up with? Like, who would be his Batman? And the answer to that's got to be Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
So if you're
he's just a couple of years older than me. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're presented with the opportunity to share the screen as Batman with your Batman, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
So
no, that's a great point.
Yeah. And then Drewley made the comment to Unreal fans, like, Affleck check, Keaton check, like, are we going to get Kilmer, Clooney, and whoever else he mentioned as well? Like, and I mean, I know he was joking, but Jesus, dude, like at the moment, I don't think any bets are off.
I mean, I don't even know if he was joking because, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true that all bets are off, but I do agree with you. And I wanted to say something similar about Andy Muschietti is like, yeah, I mean, we've been taken through the ringer on the Flash movie, but it seems like he's really the guy. And he's the one who's wrestled this bull to the ground that nobody else could seem to do. And it's really exciting. It's great to hear it moving forward. It's great to hear details. He also said he was going to bring something to show, but I wonder if this was it. Like, was this what he was going to share, or maybe there's something else? But
yeah, I mean, if it was, kind of pissed that it got out. I'd rather have waited. Because this is big news. Like, could you imagine if they, in that, what is it? It's only like a 10-minute panel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really quick one. I think it's just called Introducing the Flash.
Earlier in the day, too. Like, if they'd have just said, Affleck's back, boom. Like, that's a huge friggin' mic drop.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah. But anyway, it seems like Muschietti is the guy, which I'm so excited about. I'm so glad to hear that. He was also very deliberate in the way he said, it's Barry's story, it's Barry's adventure. Because, yes, I'm seeing the cynical fans be like, oh, nice Flash movie starring two Batmen. I understand the point.
I'm sorry, every Marvel movie starring Iron Man.
I mean, I'm just going to sip this tea right here. Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to call it out for what it is. That's some bullshit.
And I get it, but at the same time, like, I also trust that it's going to be Barry's story, and I'm not gonna look a gift bat. I'm not gonna look a gift bat in the mouth. And I'm going to have faith that, they will balance it appropriately, and I'm not going to get mad about it yet, because let me see the movie. Right now, I'm excited what I'm hearing. I love that we get two of our favorite Batmen in this movie. And so I'm just going to be excited about it. I think that's great. So, yeah, very exciting stuff. And it'll be interesting to see if this was what Muschietti wanted to share, or if he's got another little something. We'll see.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, whatever it is.
Yeah. So cool. So exciting. And it's a great week to be DC fans. And it's going to get even better.
Which is compared to the podcast we did less than a week ago, it's certainly been a change of tune, hasn't it?
Oh my God. I mean, that's the way it goes, You get it's like being in an abusive relationship. You get a kiss, then you get a smack across the mouth.
Yeah, that's being a DC fan.
And then rinse and repeat. That's how it is. And then all of us are like, yeah, but DC loves us. You don't understand. What was that?
I said, we ride the highs when we get them.
Yeah. So, anyway, cool stuff. Exciting to hear and see more. But, hey, I'm glad we get one last go-round, however long it lasts, however much he is in the film. But I'm glad we do get a proper way to bid farewell to Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yep.
Bring it on. If that's what it is, before y'all start emailing, don't you think it's possible? Sure, like I said, anything's possible. Anything's possible. I'm just saying what I think is going on, but again, who knows? Exciting stuff, very cool. So anyway, it was nice to get a little bonus Bat news before we get into fandom.
Oh, it's any day like this is always a good day.
Yeah.
I found it really hard to concentrate on work though when I was getting ready to log in and stuff this morning, because all this had happened, and yeah, like, you know, the Matt Reeves stuff had broken several hours before, but I'd only been awake for about 45 minutes, you know, with getting the Affleck news and then having to start work, and you're sort of wanting to chat to friends about it, and I was sort of messaging a little bit back and forth with Philip, and you were still asleep, and it was just like, come on, dude, wake up. So I needed to have that geeky outlet, and I honestly didn't think you'd have time to do an emergency podcast, so I didn't even suggest it. But then I'm really glad we get to have this discussion this evening.
Yeah. I mean, one of our listeners did suggest it, and I went, actually, I can make it happen.
There was a few on Twitter. Yeah.
I actually can do it, which is great. Yeah, I was earlier today. I went to Starbucks with Catherine, and we were sitting there and, like, you know, enjoying our drinks. But I wouldn't get off my phone. I was a terrible boyfriend for the 15 minutes we were at Starbucks. And she's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's Batman stuff. I'm sorry." So she was very patient. God bless her. But yeah, like in that, and like you said, it was like, oh, there, you know, it's hard to focus on other things when something like this is going on.
You know, I get accused of being a terrible husband all the time because I'm always on my phone, but it's not because it's Batman stuff that's breaking. It's usually because I'm talking to you.
I told Jess that I will share.
You and you know, the real fans chat, but mostly you.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was funny when I woke up and, you know, I pick up my phone like bleary-eyed and I just saw, is Andy awake yet? And I was like, what's going on now? At least this time it was good news.
Yes, yeah.
So
I did allow sort of that when it sort of got to around 9, I think it was like 9:30 my time. I'm like, he's got to be up by now because it's Friday. Like, he'd be working, not realizing he had the day off. And then there was still nothing for ages. I'm like, come on, man, Christ, you're killing me here.
Hey, man, if I didn't have to get up for work, I'm going to sleep a little bit. And what happened was like, I slept a little bit, but then I did have a couple work calls I had to take even though I wasn't in the office today. So there was that too. Because, yeah, I'm assuming I probably didn't respond until I finished my meetings.
Yeah, it was around 11 my time, so yeah, it would have been 9 your time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, because I know everybody listening to this is really interested in my work schedule. This is why you guys tune in. Cool. All right. More exciting news to come. And yeah, bonus episode of Holy BatCast because of this. Because, hey, it's not one, but two big Batman bombshells while I slept. But because we're here and we know that there's going to be even more to talk about in a couple of days, what do you say to helping me clean out the old Wayne Manor mailbox?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, great. Let's do it. So, yeah, let's check in and answer your fine questions in the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
Okie dokie. This question here comes from Aaron. It says, "Hey lads, I'm listening to episode number 270, Changes at DC Comics. I'm not buying the complete cancellation of titles like Suicide Squad and Constantine. What are your thoughts on DC shelving these titles until their respective movies come out? I only mention this as Marvel did the same thing with Daredevil when the Netflix show was about to come out. Anyway, keep up the good work." Thanks, Aaron. That is very interesting, and I think you might be onto something. Brendan, what do you think?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, if they're not selling that well now, but you need a marketing tool further down the line, yeah, why not? Comics get relaunched all the friggin' time, as we know. So yeah, I wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Suicide Squad, that makes a ton of sense. Is like, release a new number one, relaunch the book right when the big movie's coming out. Yeah, absolutely. Constantine,
with potentially the same squad as well.
Right, exactly. Like using the same characters. Constantine, who knows when a Justice League Dark show is going to actually happen. Like, we don't have a timeline on that, so that one I'm not as sure about. But Suicide Squad makes perfect sense. That yes, like, let it sit for a few months and then relaunch it when the movie comes out and like get all the free publicity, get more sales. Good call. All right, next question is from Brian B. It says, hey, I hope things are going well. In one of your recent episodes, a listener asked about an ideal Batman movie series. While I could write a 5-page article about it, I'll try to keep it short. I'd have a 35-year-old Batman, old enough to be a veteran, but not aging. I'd also sign him up for 4 to 5 films like Bond, and have a creative writing team behind it instead of a director. Then don't be afraid to continue the franchise if the actor leaves. I would introduce Dick Grayson as Nightwing as well as Batgirl, and then use Jason Todd as a tragic figure who goes bad as Red Hood. I'd have the Joker as a Blofeld-type figure who makes small appearances when needed and then is finally unleashed, Endgame style, in the final film, which unites the Bat family. Secondly, this question's for Jamie, in the 50-50 chance that he's on this pod. He's not. I'm so sorry. But I'm going to read it anyway because I'm not going to save this. It says, I recently spent a week with friends, all of whom are not into comics but are into sports. When one asked me why Ben Affleck failed, I used this analogy. I compared him to Colts quarterback Andrew Luck, saying they were both supremely gifted, who did what they could around them but were let down by upper management. Luck with Pagano, Grigson, and Affleck with Snyder and the WB execs. Also both left earlier than they should have, and an example of what could have been. What do you think? Lastly, Andy, great job on the Friday the 13th podcast. As an unabashed fan of those films, it was a definite highlight for me listening to you guys nerd out about it. But unpopular opinion, I think that 6 and Jason X are the worst, and 4 and 2 are the best. Hopefully you guys do the Halloween series next year. As always, thanks for the hard work, and sorry for the length of this email. It's okay, Brian. I'll allow it. You covered a lot of ground in your email. Last thing first, I'm glad you enjoyed the Friday the 13th podcast that we did on Real Fans for Real Movies. It was super fun. Me, Hunter, and Guy did that. I can see, I love 6 and Jason X, but those are both the tongue-in-cheek installments. So if you don't like the tongue-in-cheek tone, I would understand why those wouldn't work for you. But that's part of why they work for me, so I get it. Your sports analogy, I thought the same thing, really. I was like, Andrew Luck, it's so Affleck. Am I right? Am I right, Brendan?
Sure. I don't understand. I don't get NFL at all, but I'll take your word for it. I'm a sports guy. I don't get NFL.
And I'm sure Jamie agrees with you. And then as for your ideas overall for your Batman franchise, I like it. I like most of it, but there is a big old omission, and that omission is Tim Drake. Brendan, What do you think?
Agreed. I don't need to see Jason at all, and I don't need to see Red Hood in there. I'd much rather do something with Tim. I do love the several comparisons to the Bond franchise, of course, but no, I totally think it should be a multi-picture deal, not just 3 movies. Get a guy, I guess, kind of Pattinson's age, actually. Get him kind of young, sign him up for a 4 or 5 picture deal, and have a team of writers and everything, yes, but also a director who gets the character, who really, I guess, kind of like Matt Reeves, I guess, and to a degree Nolan and everything as well, but I think they need to think big picture and really, I've said it 100 times on this show, the cinematic universe, which is now going to be the multiverse, that's awesome. I love it. But could just do a Batverse. There's enough characters in there to warrant that, and hopefully with the Matt Reeves side of things, maybe that's what we're going to get. It might just, might go full Batverse, and there's no reason why they can't do it. That's all I can really say. It's money to be made, and they like making money.
Yep. I'm with you. All right, let's move forward. This from Imad Alaguz. It says, hey guys, some people believe that comic books and superhero movies are only for kids and teenagers. They look at adults like myself who are big fans of comics being superficial. I told someone I spent over an hour and a half analyzing Aquaman with a friend, and he was shocked. I don't know how this is any less manly or adulty than spending hours and hours talking about football. I would like to hear your thoughts. Love your podcast. Please don't stop making them. Cheers, Imad. Thanks, Imad. Good to hear from you. I mean, I agree with you. Like, everybody's a nerd about something. Why is it cool to be a nerd about sports, but somehow too nerdy to be a nerd about comic books? I don't know. I've never understood it, but I guess because sports fans are big and can usually beat us up. I don't know.
I feel like this email's come from 20 years in the past. Like, I don't know, my experiences these days and for the last maybe 10, 12 plus years is all the adults that I communicate with, we all talk geeky stuff. But I mean, I do, like, I've got my sporty friends and I've got my geeky, like, comic booky friends and you know, superhero guys and stuff like that. But there's a broad, like, there's a lot of crossover there as well. So I mean, I personally, I don't see that really in my life at all. And the people who do, kind of, you know, the one or two that might look down their nose at you, I just think, well, you're the one missing out. So tough shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Like, it is a little outdated. Like, yeah, like, it's not, you don't see it as much, especially because of how popular superhero films have become in the past 15 years, I would say. Like, because
just
they've
content
become,
in general.
Yeah, I mean, they've become like the premier franchises in especially films, but yeah, you're right, TV and video games, etc. That it did take a lot of that stigma away, but I think some of it still exists. You know, you'll still see some of it.
Because I mean, even here in Australia, even in the last 7 or 8 years, like, there's a lot more pop culture stores popping up, and you know, even comic shops. They're not what they were 15, 20 years ago. You know, they're not dark little dingy places, you know, off a back alley somewhere. That, I mean, there are some. There's one in my neighborhood actually that's still kind of like that, and you walk in and it stinks like BO, and it's the real stereotypical guys behind the counter and stuff like that. And I don't know, I don't like going there. I only go there if I really have to. But there's other stores in town that are awesome and bright and fun, and then, like I said, there's just the general pop culture stores around. So yeah, it's disappointing that you're having that experience, but I don't know, it's not something that I really see anymore.
All right, cool. Let's move forward. This is from Ron Messberger. It says, "Hey guys, I haven't been keeping up with Batman comics recently, but I was wondering what you thought of Punchline. With her popularity, it also had me thinking, have you ever thought of or created a character for the Batman mythos?" Thanks, Ron. I am a couple issues behind, but I really like Punchline. I think she's really cool. I love that James Tynion took a big swing like that, and it seems to be paying off because, yeah, the fans seem to be embracing her. Because it would have been very easy to go, oh, she's just another Harley, but she is very different from Harley, and credit to them. So I think that's great. As for creating a original Batman character, I never have. So no, not yet. It would be a heck of a challenge, but nope. Brendan?
The only Punchline story I've read was the one in the Joker 80 comic that we reviewed a few episodes ago. So I really can't comment on that character. What I've seen, it might be cool, but I haven't delved into it enough. It did, from the outside looking in, it doesn't really do much for me. I've never created a character for Batman, but I know when I was probably around 11 or 12, I did try to create my own superhero. I can't remember what the superhero was called. It was something to do with a lightning bolt. Like, that was kind of the aesthetic for it anyway. But I do remember one of the rogues gallery that I created, and it was a riff on Two-Face. But it was a guy who was half human side. The other half was fully robotic, you know, all mechanics and stuff like that. And his name was Halfwit. So
All
that's
right.
as close as I've come.
I created a superhero too. It wasn't the most original superhero in the world, but it was essentially a vampire superhero. It was kind of Blade, but like less leather and more like Bela Lugosi. So it was almost like a little more gothic version of Blade, where it was, you know, exactly like the reluctant vampire who uses his powers now to be a superhero, which, you know, there's Morbius, there's Blade, there are other versions of that character, and I just had my version. I don't even think I had a name for him, but I drew him.
Yeah. I don't know why, just the half-wit thing has always stuck with me.
Well, there you go. All right, next message from Tom Fallows. It says, hey guys, I thought I'd give you a break from my questions for a week, but I hope you enjoyed DC Fandom. Well, we're looking forward to enjoying it. He says, considering that you followed Batman the Animated Series with Batman Beyond, will you follow that with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, just to close off the DCAU and go in chronological order? Stay safe, Tom Fallows from Liverpool. Thanks, Tom. Always good to hear from you. I don't know. I mean, Brendan has very strong feelings about this.
Oh, we've already had this discussion. I don't know why we're even talking about it now. We're doing the Batman. It makes sense too because of the title. You know, if the Batman movie is coming out, we need to cover the Batman animated series. That's what we're doing. I've put my foot down.
Well, great. Not your show, but you know, put
Yeah,
your
I
foot
know.
down all you want. And cover the Batman all you want on the Nightlight. Nobody's going to stop you.
I know. I'd rather do it with you guys though.
So, I guess the answer is we'll see. Even though Brendan, he's put his foot down. All right, this is from our old pal Gaurav and Kataswar, who did the theme for the Wayne Manor Mailbox, and he also did the theme music for Why Not Futurama.
Knew the name was familiar.
Yeah, he's a good dude. It's great to hear from him. He says, hey guys, after getting HBO Max, I finally binged Beware the Batman, and I loved it. I tried starting it years ago, but somehow I didn't get into the first episode, and then the second time, I couldn't get enough. I love the way Katana was included. I like their take on Alfred, and the overall 3D animation. There's a lot of great action. It's underrated. Questions. You may have mentioned it before, but where does it stack up in your ranking of Batman animated shows? Number 2, would you want to see it come back? Number 3, the use of Deathstroke had me wondering if the Ben Affleck script for his planned Batman film would have leveraged Deathstroke in a similar way. What do you think? Also, I remember when Jamie suggested Lawrence Fishburne could play Ra's al Ghul, I couldn't picture it until I recently saw him in the John Wick films. The way he played that character gave me a hint of what his Ra's could be like. Separately, Jamie, this is for Jamie again. Sorry, he says, I know you're a big Blackish fan, but have you watched the spin-offs, Grownish and Mixedish? My wife and I really enjoyed Mixedish. We're also into Black AF, the show on Netflix. Curious to know if you've seen them. Finally, Brendan, I heard you say you work for the Australian Post. I actually have family in Australia that works for the Australian Post. So cheers to that. Thanks as usual for taking the time to podcast. Take care, Gaurav. Thanks, Gaurav. Always good to hear from you. Very cool. So the Jamie question, you guys can talk about that offline. Brendan, do you know Gaurav's family who work at the Australian Post?
I mean, I know we've got a smaller population than America does, but we're not that small.
Okay, all right,
So,
makes sense.
No. But man, if you want to hit me up on Twitter and sort of tell me where they're based, like I can, you know, I'm
Say
part
hi.
of it. It's obviously it's a very large corporation in a very, in a quite large country. So, short answer, no. But I'd be curious to know where they are.
All right, and then finally, overall thoughts on Beware the Batman, Brendan.
I watched them via VHS when they were airing. I'd acquire my copy week to week. I didn't mind it. It's definitely not my favorite. To be honest, I don't even know if I finished it because they did that weird thing where it got moved to, they essentially just dumped it to early hours of the morning or late night or some shit from memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was 2:30 in the morning. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it even the VHS has kind of stopped after that, or there was a huge break, and then it came back in the early hours of the morning, and I just kind of never went back to it. I got to be honest, I didn't love it. It used a lot of characters that I just don't really care for. Like, I know you like Magpie, but Magpie, Professor Pig, and that sort of stuff. I thought the Batmobile looked cool. And I did like that take. I mean, I like a gruff Alfred, so I liked that, and I thought the Batman costume was cool, but it's probably, sort of bottom of the charts for me personally. But in saying that, I do have the DVDs, and I'd be curious to revisit it again one day, but yeah. Fortunately, it wasn't really my thing.
Yeah, I watched it when it first came out, but I don't think I ever even finished the season. Because, yeah, like you said, once they started rescheduling it, I lost track of it, and I just never went back to it. I think I did buy the Blu-rays, and I just never watched them. So I will say, I guess I liked it better than I expected to, like when they initially pitched it, but I never loved it. So, like, when it didn't get a second season, I wasn't too upset about it. I was just like, that's fine. Like, it just wasn't something that ever really grabbed me. It was okay. I appreciated them trying to use some more obscure characters and give them some time in the spotlight. I thought that was kind of neat. I don't like the Jason Statham Alfred. I don't like that at all, so I wasn't a fan of that. Having Katana as his Robin was a little weird. Like, I don't know. It wasn't my thing. It was okay. I know a lot of people really loved it. A lot of people didn't. I'm in the middle. I thought it was fine, but I never mourned its loss. But one of these days I'll go back and revisit it. I mean, it's on HBO Max, so maybe this is now the time. And then I think I jumped off it before Deathstroke even showed up. So
yeah, I don't remember seeing Deathstroke either.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I am on Beware the Batman. We'll eventually cover it.
It's had an explosion in the last, almost 10 years. Like, I mean, as deep into Batman stuff as I was, from 2005 when Batman Begins hit and everything, like, I'd never heard of Deathstroke as a kid. Mm-hmm. And really my introduction to the character was through Arrow. And then he's just, I don't know, like, I know he's been around for a long time, but he's kind of in everything at the moment, to the point of people wanting a solo movie. I mean, he's just had an animated movie come out. Like, yeah, it's crazy. He's sort of, him and Deadshot. They're both, for me personally, they're characters that I'd never heard of until 10 or so years ago, and from then on, it's just they've really blown up. It's good to see.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. All right. Next message is from our pal Jim Scroggs. It says, "Hey, I'm sorry if you've already answered this, but would you consider alternate cuts like the Snyder Cut or possibly the Ayer Cut as canon?" First of all, Jim, let me applaud you on the brevity of your email. That was wonderful. Just one sentence. Oh my God. You're my favorite person. It's amazing. You're the best email writer I've ever met, and you win. You win the prize. You win nothing but my respect, but it's something.
I'm sure there's a few leftover cool points from the old RF days.
You know what? Take 1 million cool points for that. What do you say, Brendan? Do you think the Snyder Cut, or if they release the Ayer Cut, do you think they're canon?
Well, my answer to that is that the Ultimate Cut of BVS is canon.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, yeah. Definitely.
I think that as long as there's nothing in those cuts that is contradicted by the movies that came after, then yes. So that's why, like, the Ultimate Cut of BVS, like, yeah, there's nothing in there in the extended cut that was somehow rendered inconsistent by something that came after. As long as that's the case, then yes, I would prefer them to be canon, and I will, in my own head canon, I would consider those to be canon. But again, if we see the Snyder Cut and, Batman's head gets chopped off and Wonder Woman, I don't know, what could Wonder Woman do? I don't even know. Wonder Woman loses a leg, and then in the next movie, she has her legs again. I don't know. Like, if there's something that doesn't add up, then it's, like, harder to make it work. But as long as there's no contradictions, I say yes, they're canon.
Yeah, the biggest one is going to be the Snyder Cut because, with BVS and even I'm sure the Ayer cut, like, they're essentially the same movie. You're just getting a more expanded version of it. Whereas
Right.
the theatrical JL compared to what I believe the Snyder Cut's going to be is going to be chalk and cheese. Like there's going to be obviously a few similarities there, but it's going to be a lot more broad change as opposed to just expanding what we already knew.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next message here is from Bishop. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family, was the Lois and Clark TV show a sequel show to the Superboy syndicated series? Also, there have been questions about soundtracks on the show. What's your favorite song from the Dick Tracy soundtrack with Madonna?" Been getting a lot of Dick Tracy questions, but I wonder if they're all from Bishop here. So, Lois and Clark, a sequel to Superboy? Not that I don't think so. I feel like it's not.
It was its own thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's not. There's not enough connective tissue that you could even make it work in your head canon. I don't think.
Actually, now that I think of it, where did I hear it? Was with Deborah. Was it Deborah Joy? Whoever the producer was of that show, anyway. I think when it was its 20th anniversary a few years back, she was on a few podcasts, and I'm sure I remember the story of one of the guys who played Superboy, because there was the two of them, in that series, auditioned, and he got really close to being selected, but they didn't realize
that he'd already played the character.
Yeah, and that kind of ruled him out.
So, interesting.
I mean, if they had the intention of it being a carry-on, you think he would have been a shoo-in. But yeah, don't completely quote me on that. But I know there was a story. I'm sure that's it, where he essentially was like told no because he'd previously played the role.
Interesting. All right. And then the Dick Tracy soundtrack from Madonna, like, I don't know it well enough. I know it's the one she sings in the middle of, like, sooner or later, whatever that one is. I'll say that one.
Yeah, I don't know the soundtrack at all, really, so. It does remind me, though, we should do a 30th anniversary on Real Fans. I'd be down for that.
I know people want it, so if we can make it happen, I'm down. Cool. All right, next message is from Alvin. It says, "Hey, could Matt Reeves do the Mask of the Phantasm storyline as a sequel to The Batman with Robert Pattinson and possibly Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker?" Brendan?
Could he? Yes. Do I want him to? No.
Yeah. Could he? Sure. Do I expect him to? No. And I don't think he's going to be bringing Joaquin Phoenix into that continuity. I think he's going to want his own Joker.
Agreed.
All right. And guess what we got? We finally got to the questions about what happened today. This is from our pal Jason. He actually left a voicemail, but I don't have access to the voicemail box, so I'm just going to read it. I hope that's okay. Jason, he says, "Hey guys, it's Jason with the news. Where's the news of Ben Affleck returning to the Flash movie? I've got a question. What are the chances of Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come Superman or even Henry Cavill's Superman in the Flash movie? Anyway, I hope you're staying safe. Have a good podcast." Okay, interesting. So this kind of gets to some other speculation of like, if Ben Affleck is going to come back as Batman in the Flash and Michael Keaton's going to come back, do you think we're going to start seeing other cameos from other versions like Brandon Routh or Henry Cavill? I don't know. What do you say, Brendan?
I mean, look, I'd be down for it, certainly. If they're going for that multiverse angle, there's no reason why they can't. I don't know, Ralph. I kind of feel like we've already had it with Crisis on Infinite Earths late last year and early this year.
Mm-hmm.
If that hadn't happened. Or even if Ralph hadn't returned to the DC universe with Arrow and Legends, and he just kind of came back as a one-off in a Flash movie, I think that would be more likely. But I mean, again, man, like you have to say never in the world we're in at the moment. But I mean, there's no reason why you can't. If you're gonna go for a multiverse and you're gonna really embrace it, you can't just have different versions of Batman. You've got to have different versions of other characters. So yeah, it's possible. I just don't know. I mean, I'm sure Ralph would be down for it. I know he wasn't really happy about being let go from Legends, and I mean, he still looks bloody good. He can pull it off. He looked great in that Kingdom Come suit.
I mean,
and like we said before,
I think he looks better now than he did in Superman Returns.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, he is the Christopher Reeve Superman. So yeah, I'd be down for it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, anything is possible. I don't know if we'll see it. It'll be interesting to see how much of this movie is another Crisis, where you're going to see different versions of different things throughout, and how much of it is not. Like, I just don't know. That'll be really fun to see how far they're going to go down that rabbit hole. They certainly can, fold in as many cameos as they want, and they could. But you're right, because we just got Brandon Routh essentially doing that with Crisis, doing it again would feel a little redundant. I'm not opposed to it because I think he's great and I think he's a wonderful Superman, so I'm all for it. But I don't know if it can be different enough where we don't feel like we just saw it. But more Henry Cavill Superman, yes, that's one of the things that a lot of fans are like, okay, great to hear that Ben's going to be back for The Flash. That's awesome. But what about Henry Cavill? And I agree with those fans. I want more Henry Cavill Superman, so I would love to see that in whatever way they want to do it. You know, ideally it would be his own movie, but I will also take cameos in other movies.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend today, Jeff, who's a huge Superman fan. He's actually been on the Nightlight before, and we were both saying that with this, movie that's meant to be announced at Fandom, like, I'm going to be happy essentially with whatever they give us because I'm a DC fan. So whatever it is, I'm going to support it. That just goes without saying. But I would be a little bit disappointed if it's not a Man of Steel 2 or just a Cavill vehicle. Because like if anyone, it's great. Yeah, like you said, it's great that Affleck's coming back, but if they're still embracing that universe, which it seems like they are, like that original, Justice League Snyderverse cast, I mean, he's the granddaddy of them all, and he obviously still wants to do it, and the fans love him in the role. It's kind of like it's the same argument as the Affleck thing. Like, I can understand if people, I mean, I love it myself, but I can understand if people if they don't love Man of Steel. It was a different take on the character. And I can see why it didn't sit well with some people. I get it, but you can dislike that movie, but you can't say that Cavill's bad in it. And it's the same with Affleck. Like, if you don't, I get why some people don't like BVS. It's not a mainstream run-of-the-mill superhero movie, but you can't say that Affleck was a bad Batman in it. So people, even if they don't like the movies, tend to love the cast. And Cavill has a huge support base. And again, like I said before, like Warner Brothers love making money, and you bring Henry back in a Superman movie, and it's gonna do well. There's in my opinion, there's no way it can't.
I hope you're right. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that if Fandom comes and goes and there's not a peep about Superman or Henry Cavill, yes, that will be disappointing. So I agree with you on that.
There is the Shazam panel. Let's just say that.
Right. All right, one last email here. This is from our old pal Stuart from Guernsey. He says, I was just going off to sleep when I decided to watch a short documentary about the Batman Year One movie script. But as I scrolled down, I saw that there was a live video saying that Ben was back as Batman, which I thought there had to be some truth in, as it was from someone who would do a live video if there wasn't any truth. Okay, I was buzzing as he's my favorite Batman, but a small part of me was disappointed as I thought this must mean the Keaton deal must have fallen through. So I went to find the original article. Once I read it, I started reading it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I was on such a high, I couldn't go to sleep. Then I woke up at 4:30 a.m. because I couldn't stop thinking about both of my favorite Batmen coming back. I feel like I'm in a dream. I'm sure you've addressed everything I could ask for by now, so I'll just leave it at that. I just wanted to message you guys because I'm buzzing. I hope you're doing well, Stuart. Okay, so no question, just sharing of excitement. Thanks, Stuart. We agree.
Yeah.
How about that?
Before I forget it too, how I just mentioned there's a Shazam panel. Did you see the tweet that it's Sandberg, isn't it? Yeah, David Sandberg.
Yes.
Tweeted out today like the faux title of Shazam 2.
Yes, which is all the kids have facial hair now or something like that.
Yeah. he's having a lot of fun as well.
He's awesome.
Really great.
Yeah, he's great. So yeah, I saw that. That was awesome. David Sandberg, he's wonderful. Cool. All right, well, we're going to close the Wayne Manor mailbox. You can send additional questions for next time to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. Of course, next time, we're going to be talking about everything we see during Fandom, so who knows if there will be time for emails. Might have to get its own episode. It might have to be Fandom Recap, Fandom Emails. We'll see how it goes. But that's where we're going to wrap up this last-minute emergency podcast that's still the length of a regular podcast. Hopefully you like the show because, you're just getting more of it. But we'll wrap this baby up. Brendan, thanks for jumping on somewhat last minute.
That's fine. Yeah, anytime, mate. I was just doing the math too, and I was looking at the clock. It's 29 and a half hours until Fandom starts. But who's counting?
Who's counting? It's wonderful. So yeah, we've got a heck of a weekend ahead of us, and this is just step one. And Jamie, we'll pour one out for you, buddy. We miss you. Hopefully you're having a great Friday.
And hopefully you can join us for the Fandom wrap up too.
I hope so.
He's got a bit of a schedule, the big guy. So
yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. We'll be back before you guys know it because Fandom is 29 and a half hours away. But Brendan, just in case nobody has ever heard this show before, and they've made it this far, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Lowy007. You can find my podcast, The Nightlight, at nightlight.podbean.com. Sorry, thenightlight.podbean.com and at nightlightpod on Twitter.
Great. All right. Give that a follow. So we're going to wrap this up. Thanks, as always, for joining us. Thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe so you never miss an episode. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And as Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. And as Ben Affleck's Batman says, something's definitely bleeding. That's everybody's favorite line. That's everybody. Yeah. The internet loves that line. They do.
They do. I'm going to be honest, I laughed at it, but anyway.
Anyway, go to holybatcast.com. Find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Again, any emails for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send those to holybatcast at rf4rm.com. Again, check out all the other shows that are part of the network at rf4rm.com. Most recently, we did a Real Fans episode looking back at Edward Scissorhands. So there's a Tim Burton connection there, and you better believe that in that, I mentioned Batman, because of course I do. Because everything comes back to Batman. But anyway, yeah, check that out if you like. But that'll do it for this time. We'll be back in a couple of short days. Enjoy Fandom, guys. Have a blast. Soak it in. Watch it wide awake because I will be watching it trying to stay awake because it's in the middle of the night. But it's a great time. Enjoy the weekend. It's like a holiday. So happy Fandom, one and all. But we'll be back here next time to talk about everything that we see and learn then. And you know where to find us. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.